Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers, Chapter 3. We only have a few more days to go before the 14-day celebration of fun-filled events that will show you exactly that everyone has a story to tell. That will be this coming October 24th to November 6th. We are also streaming live in our Readers Magnet Facebook page and Readers Magnet YouTube channel. You can also visit us online at www.thefestivalofstorytellers.com and make sure to sign up. Today, we have one of our featured authors, John Herold, author of The One-Legged Cowboy. Hi, John. How are you today?
Fine. How are you?
That's good. I'm good as well. Thank you for asking. I'm so excited to know more about your book and you as well. So, you mentioned earlier to me during our conversation that your book is still in the works. So, can you tell us a little something or a little background about your book?
You want to know a little bit about the book, or you want about me?
About the book. Let's
Okay.
start with
Yes.
the book first.
Okay. The book is basically the story of a cowboy that's been in the business of taking care of cattle for 10 or 15 years, and now he's kind of an old man when it comes to that type of work. And on one occasion, he's so good at what he does, he accidentally, he and his horse fell down a canyon, and they both broke their legs. So then he was forced to kill the horse and then try to make it back to the ranch, which was 10 miles away. This is out in Utah,
Hmm.
and in the process,
Wow.
a a young Indian boy came by and helped him, and then he said go for help while he couldn't walk anymore, and
Hmm.
in the meantime, uh, the what happens after that is a prospector comes by with a donkey and takes him to the ranch.
Hmm. Wow, that's how the story is. That's kind of interesting. And what inspired you to write the book?
What inspired me was basically, I've said this a few times.
Mhm.
My grandfather was a cowboy out in Wyoming and Oklahoma, not
Mhm.
Oklahoma, Montana, and I only knew that because of what I heard through the family, but it's true. And he after 1900, they weren't shipping cattle out there that way. They put them on rail cars and send them back east. So he didn't have
Mhm.
a job, so he came back east. He stopped in uh, not Kentucky, one of the middle states, and he met a woman, and they got married. And
Mhm.
he came back to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where he lived the rest of his life.
Mhm.
I met him when I was about 7 years old. I met him a couple times, actually one that I remember, and he was very quiet. He said he didn't say much. He hardly talked to me, but I was impressed. I was
Mhm.
impressed with his homemade baked beans and hot dogs mostly, because
Wow. Mhm.
that was what I liked most of all. But I remember him, and so
Mhm.
when later in life, when I was in California working, he started coming back into my mind about writing something about him.
Mhm.
And one thing led to another, and then when I retired, I was able to sit down and actually write the book. The book has little bits of information in there that are partly about me, partly
Mhm.
about history, and it's all kind of woven together to give the story its content.
Wow, that's pretty interesting and pretty amazing that you still remember all of those stories and conversation that you have with your grandfather, and you wrote them. Collected them and write a book. That's pretty awesome. And
Right.
are you really close to your grandfather? Were
No,
you
no.
really?
Honestly, he was not. He was kind of distant. He was
Oh.
he would talk to my mother, who was his daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and move over and talk to some of his new wife that he had,
Mm-hmm.
and that's about all I saw. So what I did is I turned around. At one point, I walked through his garden. He had a nice garden, and he
Mm-hmm.
had a big giant tomato hanging off one of the vines. So
Mm-hmm.
I sat down there and I pulled the tomato off and I ate it.
Oh,
And
wow. So that's
after that, I came back,
mhm.
and by that time, my mother was ready to leave to go home. She didn't stay very long.
I see. So that's how you started bonding with your grandfather. Did
Yes.
he, I mean, did you ever thought that you will be a writer?
Uh, well, no, not really, because I got a couple incidents that happened in my life that
Mm-hmm.
changed my thinking. In
Mm-hmm.
ninth grade, particularly in ninth grade, we had a substitute teacher, and she said to us, "I want you to sit down, everybody, and write a 500 word essay about anything."
Mm-hmm.
So I did that with everybody else. And I turned the paper in at the end of the hour. Next day, she hands them out. There's no marks on my paper, nothing corrected, but at the top it says a C minus. So I went up and I said to her, I said, "How come I got a C minus when you have no marks on my essay? What did I do wrong?"
Mm-hmm.
She looked at me. She says, "You didn't write this. You copied this from someplace." I said, "No, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
copy it from. Where am I going to copy it from? I didn't have my book there, and it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't about anything to do with what we were studying." And she insisted that I copied it. She wouldn't. She kept it as a C minus. So I said, after that, forget it. I'll go back into engineering. I'm, I know about engineering, and I'm better off there. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I really wasn't looking back. It's just
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get a support that I would have needed to carry on.
Right.
So it became a hobby when I went out in California and retired.
And then you start writing.
Yes, it's become my number one thing is writing. I've got a
Well, it
patent. I've
ended
got a
up.
patent on a kayak and
Uh-huh.
a lot of artwork.
Wow,
But
you also paint?
but uh, writing has become my main interest
That's
because with
good.
writing I can create things that are in my mind and add some experiences that I had to kind of make it fulfilling.
I agree.
That's
Definitely.
you
It's
got
a
me
different
jumping.
well, that's my goal. That's my goal. That's why I'm here. And it's pretty interesting actually that, you did not really thought to be a writer, but you ended up writing a book, which is pretty awesome. Not everyone started that way, right?
Right.
So, you must be a genius or something. You have it in you already.
Well, I have a
So I
fairly good IQ, if that helps.
Wow, another amazing thing about you. Well, for those who are watching us live, you can grab a copy of John's book, The One-Legged Cowboy, available in Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and in his website, www.johnheroldbooks.com. So, John, I wanted to know more about the details of the book. So, did you ever um, encountered any challenges in writing the book?
Any challenges?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I've always liked English and
Mm-hmm.
and particularly English pronouns and verbs and all that stuff. But I really was interested. I was really confused about how a book is put together. And people say, well, if you write a book, you get through one chapter, you won't be able to finish it because it's too much work. Well, I tried it and I said, hey, I like it enough. I can do the whole book. But along the way, I made mistakes, and those mistakes
Yes.
had to be corrected. Like one, I was talking to this woman who ran the bookstore, and she says your
Mhm,
book doesn't flow. I said, flow?
mhm,
What's that? Because it had never come up before. And
Mm,
it turns out that one chapter has to kind of lead into another chapter and another chapter, so that people sit there, they can read it and follow along, and creates a smoothness. Well, I use
mhm.
that in the back of my mind when I'm writing that. I try to put that in there so that people don't get confused. Initially, I was writing it like you were watching a TV program,
Mhm.
where you jump
Right.
jump from one scene to another,
Mhm.
and it gets confusing when you're trying to read that way.
I agree.
So
So how
that's
did you overcome it?
uh,
How did you overcome those challenges?
practice.
Practice.
I read a chapter over and over and over. I bet you I read the same chapter over, like in the last book I wrote, 38
Uh-huh.
times. I counted it 38 times. I went over the same chapter, trying to smooth it out, make it flow
Mhm.
into the next chapter.
Mhm.
It's practice.
Yes, I believe so. I agree that practice makes it perfect,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Constant
exactly
practice.
like in anything.
Of course, of course. How can you improve if you will not practice? So you have to make sure that you have time to reread and proofread everything before you submit it or before you say it's final. Because you will never have, or you will never know when to end it if you don't know when to really stop doing, or really say that it's end and that's it. And you think that sometimes you have to keep writing, right? So you have to practice when to stop and where to place all those ideas that you have in your head. So,
Well, Reza,
mhm,
I just want to mention that my approach has been to make each chapter approximately 10 pages long. So it could vary, but
mhm,
so that a person reads a chapter and then they can put the book aside if they have something else to do, and come back and pick it up later and kind of get right back into the next part of the book in this chapter and what's going on.
mhm.
Uh, what was the other thing? There was something else about that too that I can't. I just lost my thought on it. But anyway, we'll get back to it.
Yes, definitely. And I also wanted to know if you have any significant, or if someone in your character, in your real life, that you based your characters with, because the story is about a one-leg cowboy and you base it on your grandfather. So is there anyone else that that inspired you to write the
Well,
book?
yes, there's a couple people.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, my grandfather, I noticed he had a slight limp, and he was a little bow-legged.
Uh-huh.
He was a little bow-legged. I assume it was from riding horses. Sometimes you're on a horse all day, your legs start to get a bowl shape. But anyway, that and my neighbor in California,
Mm,
he was not a writer or anything, but he had diabetes, and
mm,
he had half of his fingers missing and both of his legs missing because of diabetes. And
that's sad.
yeah, it was real tough. And he was trying to get
Mm,
around, and he was pretty good at artificial legs.
mhm,
That kind of sat in my mind as to what I was writing and how he was handling the situation and putting it into my book to
mhm.
make the one-legged cowboy prove to the world that he was able to quit roping cows, but now he could become eventually a deputy in the town,
Mhm.
and he
Amazing.
went on to live his life as a deputy.
That's that's good. At least there's a development to the character.
Yes,
And now that we know the characters and who are they based from, what is your most favorite part of the book?
most favorite item is when near the latter part of the book. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
he's just become a deputy, and he meets this woman in the town,
Mm-hmm.
and her daughter is an opera singer, and the mother is taking her to San Francisco because there's a famous teacher out there. She wanted to be an opera singer professionally. So they both fall in love. The woman, the
Mm.
mother, and the cowboy. But they parted ways because the mother was insistent that she wanted to get her daughter out there first, and the
Mhm.
cowboy he uh, he went off to go after some bandits in another town, and you think that's how it ended. But if you read the end of the book, you find out that there's a in the newspapers 9 months later. There's a little article that a woman in San Francisco gave to birth to a baby and named him Joe, which is the name of the cowboy. So we don't know what
My.
happened. We don't know what happened, whether he went out to California to be with her or whatever. It's just you're hanging a little bit as to what's going to happen. Maybe
Oh my.
I'll write a sequel.
You should not leave your readers hanging. You should definitely give them another, another book to read. Well,
Yes.
that would be another conversation for us, John. Thank you so much for the time. It was a very enjoyable talk.
Well,
I learned a
thank you for your time too. I appreciate it.
Of
All right.
course, of course. I love, talking to authors and learning about their book and how they write the books. That's a very, fun thing for me. So thank you for the time.
Okay.
There you go, everyone. John Herold, author of One-Legged Cowboy. You can grab a copy of John's book available in Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and in his website, www.johnheroldbooks.com. Again, John, thank you. And as we say it here in Reader's Magnet, we share your story with the world. Good day, everyone.
Bye.